Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Ashley and I'm a six-figure reseller on Poshmark and eBay. And today I'm doing a rapid fire Q&A all about reselling questions, brands, my business, everything of the such. A couple weeks ago, I put on my Instagram at ReCloth Collection on my stories, just getting some questions from you guys in order to answer on here. I have a ton of questions. I got majority of them, and it is a lot more, I think, than I usually have done in the past. So I'm gonna try to go through them really quickly so this video isn't super duper long. So I'll try to answer them as fast as I can to make this more like rapid fire. And excuse if my voice is like kind of nasally, I am getting over a cold. So if it sounds a little bit different, that's why. So going ahead and just getting into it, the first question is, do you get overwhelmed by too much inventory? And the answer is more likely no, sometimes yes, but no, because when you have all the processes in place that you need to, you're really not overwhelmed because you have everything set in place. I would only more so get overwhelmed by like a death pile, which I'll go into more here, but when I have the process in place to work through all my inventory, I'm not overwhelmed, and when everything's stored away, I don't have to worry about it. So I would say no, unless I lose a piece of inventory that is not where it should be, and that can be overwhelming. The next question is, do you find there's a best time of day or night to post your listings? Before, and for a really long time, I did a lot of my listings at around 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. That is the start of the nighttime party. And I really liked doing it then. I thought I saw the most success then, but to be honest, where I'm at now and how I view my business, I find that the best time of day is just to do it whenever is the least stressful to me, because at 9 p.m. it's honestly getting really close to bedtime and when I want to start winding down, and I really don't want to be working that late. And so although I like to do it then, it really wasn't the best for the lifestyle I kind of want to live. So now I'm kind of just doing it whenever, probably more along the lines of like right after I'm done processing stuff, maybe around like 4 p.m. or something like that. That's just gonna work best for me, but I would say find a time that is the least stressful for you. Next question is, what are your thoughts on WhatNot? So I have not sold on there yet. I am going through like an orientation in a couple weeks here, and I may or may not sell. I kind of just going through it so that I have the opportunity, if I want to sell, I can get started right away. I did help Regina at Basic Posh Babe with her sale, and I thought it was a lot of fun. I will say it is still a lot of work. So in my opinion, it's one of those things where you really have to like get it pat down, where you're not spending as much time on the auction because you are making less money, I think, per item. I know some people are working their way up and I think they're making a pretty good profit per item, but in my opinion, you have to get things pretty cheap. You want to make a decent profit, and you want to really make the process efficient so that you can maximize your profit, or else essentially you are making low profit for spending a lot of time, which isn't ideal at the end of the day. So it really just depends on your business model. I don't think it's going to be the best business model for me, but I might see if I can work it in somehow. I'm not sure yet. I think if anything, it'd be really cool, a way for me to kind of source items and kind of sell them more for resellers to sell essentially, and then kind of start at a higher price point due to that. So those are my thoughts on it. Sorry, that's kind of long. Next question. At what point from your reselling business did you rent an office? I think I was 3 years in, and really it came to a point where I was just completely growing out of my home space. I would say stay in your space as long as you can. Do not strive to get for an office. It is a big expense, and you have to make more profit each month in order to make up from what you were doing before. So I would say stay in your space as long as you can. I've talked about that before, and make it work with what you have, even if filling in all the nooks and crannies and your other spaces in your house before you move out of it. So that was how long I've been, but there's like no turning back from here. So like I'm in it, and I just renewed my lease for another year. The next question, a very popular question, but I'm finally gonna just put it out there and answer in the best way possible. The question is, where do you source online? And I really do source on all the different resale platforms: Poshmark, eBay, The Real, and ThredUp. Those are the main ones. Sometimes I'll do Mercari, and sometimes I'll do Depop if I really want to dig into things. I don't do retail arbitrage, so if that's kind of like what you're looking for, I don't do retail arbitrage. I source on the resale platforms. I really do source on all of them, and all my strategies about how I source them are really dug straight deep and go detail by detail, step by step in my Six Figure Figure Reseller Guide, which you can find on my website, reclothcollection.com. The next question is, how do you build keywords for your items? And this is something that just takes a lot of practice. Usually I think about the different kind of really main style keywords for the item, as well as seasonal keywords, as well as event keywords. So, and those are probably the two main ones, event keywords and seasonal keywords. So like whatever season it is, and also where you can wear this item for, because in my description I'll have a lot of like, it has like open knit, it has double-breasted closure, whatever, but then in the tags it's like, where can you wear this? Well, you can wear this in the office, you can wear it for an interview, you can wear it for a job, it's workwear, it's athletic, it's running, it's Pilates, it's yoga. So I'll put all that kind of like what you would wear it for in the keywords, because a lot of people will search that way, as well as if you want to go ahead, put the category in the description bar and then see what bubbles pop up for keywords. If you don't have those in your listings, you can go ahead and add those in. And that's a really great tip from Sonia at Grateful Posh. If you don't follow her on Instagram, be sure to go ahead and give her a follow, because she had some really great insight on that you can learn more about. The next question is, how many active listings do you have? I currently have about, I think I just last checked, 1,221 items. Next question is, what are some fall trends? Straight up, I have not been great about trends this season. I'm not 100% sure. I think color is still here to stay. Through the fall, like even like summery colors. I know Thrifters Villa had a really good podcast on this, and they always do really great podcasts on fall trends. So if you're not listening to their podcast in order to get trends, they're a really good way to do that. And that's one of the reasons why I changed the Talk Trendy to Me newsletter to be more about certain style focus that are currently trending, because I'll try to keep up with the trends as much as I can, but a lot of times I just pay attention to the specific styles that are selling, because I don't sell technically like style based on any brand. I will search for specific brands and styles, so it doesn't go as necessarily hand in hand with the certain trends, if that makes sense. The next question is, what is the average time it takes to flip something? And I just looked at this yesterday in order to answer this question, and currently for this month here, I'm on an average month time to sell of like 5 months, but it's probably around 4 months, because right now things have been like a little bit longer, so I'd say like 4 or 5 months, but that's, you know, taking into account things that have been taken over a year to sell, which I've really been trying to move those out. So I've had higher volume those selling the past couple of months, as well as, you know, things that take like 1 month. So I feel like I need to take out the outliers in order to get the best thing, but I would say about like 4 months. Next question is, what do you do if a consignment item is returned? And this is exactly why I do not pay out my consignment clients until the entire selling process has been completed. So just like the Real, they do not pay you out until an item has past the return window. I do the same thing for my consignment clients. So unfortunately on eBay, that's why it does take me longer to pay them out on eBay, but Poshmark is fairly quickly, because they only have 3 days in order to return an item as a buyer. And then nextly, at what point do you feel the need to hire external help? How do you delegate those jobs? And honestly, I feel like if you're serious about your business, you should hire external help as soon as you can, especially starting off small, such as with virtual assistants in terms of creating your listings and cross-listing your items, because you shouldn't wait until you have enough money necessarily. Of course, you can't just be like start from zero, but it is a good investment even if you feel like you couldn't pay them off right away, because it's just that it's an investment, and when you hire people, it should help grow your income where you could be able to pay it. And so that's why I'm a strong believer in hiring as soon as you can or right away, especially since now, you know, I'm really focusing on, you know, enjoying my life, not putting my every single second of the day into my business. And the number one best way to do that in order to make sure you're still making money is to hire people. And I'm currently in the process of doing that right now. Eventually I want to hire somebody else, and so that the main thing is I can have as much hands off in the business as possible. And in terms of delegating the jobs, I would say, and how I think about it, the easiest way to do it is just delegate the things that are just easiest for somebody else to do. So just for virtual assistants, a lot of people are looking for remote work, so there's a great pool out there, and then you just have to find someone who can do the listing, so that's easy to do. And when it comes to doing in-person stuff, at least for me, I like to model my listings, and so right now I'm not having anyone do that. However, like shipping and storing is super easy, so I hire someone to do that, and then I'll, you know, work things up along the way. So that's kind of a good way to think about it. Next question is, how how do you trust authenticity when online sourcing? You don't. You never trust authenticity when online sourcing. You always keep like that in the back of your mind, and when you get it, you always gotta be like somewhat skeptical if it's authentic or not, because you can never really trust these places unless you're getting it straight from the source, which you're not really reselling from that. So unless you have someone that is a consignment person and they have receipts and they bought the store, then you can trust it. Otherwise, when you're online sourcing, you can never fully trust it, and that's why it's always good just to be aware of certain things with authenticity, and I'm still always learning that along the way. Next question is, what promotional rate do you set for your eBay listings? I set mine for 2%, and I find it works decent for me. I haven't really experimented with it though. The next question is, what's Stella's adoption story? So I really wanted a dog because I had a dog growing up, and Gavin never had a dog growing up, but he's allergic to cats because I wanted a cat maybe originally, but obviously that was out of the question. So I was just like looking online because I really wanted a dog, and I eventually came across her. I wanted a smaller dog originally, and he wanted a bigger dog. I thought she was a good middle mix because she technically is more of like a small large dog or large medium dog. And we literally went to go see her the next day, and after seeing her, we're like, we want her, and that's it. And then good thing we did, because like another family was literally going to look at her that same day, like right as we were like checking her out, signing the forms for her. But we had to go pick her up the next day after that. Next question is advice for Canada online sourcing. This is really hard for me to say because I obviously don't live in Canada and I don't know exactly what your online sourcing looks like. However, when it comes to online sourcing places that sell internationally, such as eBay and The RealReal, I don't know if ThreadUp does or not necessarily. You have to look into that. However, something like The RealReal, they have, I don't know actually what their shipping is, but I would just take that into play. When it comes to eBay, you're gonna find the same things on there as well, and you'll just have to take shipping into account. That does make it a little bit harder. However, it's still possible. And then if you do have any of like local consignment stores that have online shops, I would really recommend looking there. And then in terms of your own Poshmark site, you could still source on Poshmark Canada. It probably is a little bit slimmer pickings in comparison to USA, but you can still follow the same strategies on there. And it's really hard for me to know also if the brands that sell on there are the same. However, you can use the same strategies in terms of knowing what's selling to know what you should look out for. Next is, have you experienced any sales slowdowns on the Poshmark platform lately, either due to new economy or algorithm? And yes, I've definitely had a slowdown in sales, but also this summer, and I think every single month I've been on vacation, I've been away, so things have been very different. But nonetheless, I've still had a slowdown, especially even in June, where I was still listing a good amount, and that was the biggest notice I've seen, where I had a big dip, even though I felt like I was doing a lot of the same stuff. So I do think the economy has to come into play. And a good way to look at it, honestly, is if you had a month that was really well, and then the next month's completely different, but you're doing the exact same thing, you're selling the exact same things, that definitely mean external factors add to play. So definitely something to remember and not to get too hurt about. Keep doing the things that you're doing, keep looking at your data a little bit more to see what is currently selling, and just try to replicate it that way. Next thing is, what is the number one thing new sellers should prioritize to make sales? And I personally think this is just really look at the items that you are selling. Be as specific and be really as intentional as you can from the get-go instead of just adding a bunch of things into your closet. And I think this will really help you make sales. Next, tips for paying up for items. Okay, actually this is just really vague in terms of it. I have a lot of tips in my Six Figure Reseller guide that goes into like any specific detail of this question, but overall I would say just really make sure you're looking up what the market rate is going for the item and really identifying if that is something that you want to make, because everyone's business is going to be different in terms of what you're looking for in terms of profit. Next question is, are you planning on getting married anytime soon? Honestly, probably not. I don't know. We are not really rushing into marriage at all. We're pretty good with where we're at. You know, it'll happen when it happens, but I don't foresee it happening like in the near like year or something like that. But I'm okay with that. He's okay with that. We're on the same page. Next question is, how do you balance your full-time job with reselling? Looks like you're basically full-time. So yeah, it's really easy to balance reselling with my full-time job because it is super flexible. If you watch my day in the life, you can see it's basically like a full-time reselling job. But I will say is with my job and my reselling job, just because my job is really flexible doesn't mean that I work 40 hours a week on reselling. I would say that reselling plus content creation makes up a full-time job. However, if I were to identify like all aspects of my life and my career, every single part is like a part-time job. None is a full-time job and completely it's that full entrepreneurial type lifestyle where you're doing different facets of different things, and none make up like a necessarily full-time job. Sorry, my phone just overheated for no reason at all. So going back to the question, what's the hottest brand? And I feel like there are a lot. I guess if I see this kind of question as essentially like my favorite brand to resell, because of course my favorite brand is going to be like the hottest brand probably, but I'd probably say like that gets the most attention. I feel like I always sell like Dowen or like Magnolia Pearl like super quick. Like it always has so many attention on it, but I rarely sell it or come across it. Next is, how do you set up your business online? Do you use software? And so I'm gonna answer this, I guess, just the best way possible I can. I don't have any software for my business. I have everything through Google Sheets. So when it comes to setting up your business, I guess just in terms of like tracking inventory, making sure you have all your numbers set and stuff like that, I just use Google Sheets. And like I don't have an LLC or anything. I don't use like QuickBooks or anything. I kind of just use Google Sheets for everything. Next is, how often do you source in person? Right now, it's been a long time, especially since I've been traveling so much. Maybe I'll say once a month just to like give it something, but it's probably been about 3 months since I've been anywhere in person. Next is, how do you handle your taxes? Do you hire someone? And yes, I do have an accountant. I started using them, I think 2 tax seasons ago, and I started using them once I got more, especially like content creation in my business, and started just making a little bit more money. And obviously now for hiring people and such, it just gets more complicated. If I was like just selling on Poshmark, even if my revenue increased, I probably wouldn't need it. I only really use them because I have so many more moving parts. But if you don't have as many moving parts, it's pretty simple to use like H&R Block or TurboTax or something like that to get your taxes done. Next is, when did you decide to get a PO box? Is it safe to use your home address as a return? So I honestly have never had a PO box, and I just have my office address now. That's my return address. In terms of safety, that's a really hard question to answer. There's a lot of unsafe things in this world, and I guess it just depends on, how big of a seller you are maybe or something like that. I'm not really sure. Especially on like Poshmark and eBay, a lot of people sometimes just assume you're just selling from your own closet no matter what. So I don't really think there's that much stakes on the table, but of course that's not to say things can't happen. But again, there's so much stuff that can happen in the world. Next, what are the latest Bolo brands? I'm trying to think of any new brands I've come across lately. I will say it's honestly sometimes hard to come across new brands, as I have just been more throughout the years now here. Even on the Six Figure Reseller Guide Instagram page that has Bolo brands, it's been more far and few that I add them on there just because I don't come across them as much. I don't know right now off the top of my head, but I'll go ahead and put a brand tag here that I have come across recently from the page just to give you something, because I'm drawing a blank. This next question is kind of a long one, so bear with me. It is, what are your thoughts on other Poshmark sellers trying to convince their followers that you actually can't make a full-time income on Poshmark just because it's not working for them? As if to say, if I can't make a decent income on Poshmark, then you definitely can't. It's just frustrating to see, because it's clearly possible to make decent money on Posh. And I'll first say I haven't really seen this too much, but I've been really busy and not able to see much like other content lately. But if you do come across this, I will say, just stay with your own beliefs. Everyone's entitled to their own beliefs. If they're struggling with Poshmark and feel like they can't make a full-time income on it, that's just something they're going through. It may not be possible for them, and if you feel like they're projecting that onto you, I'm sorry. They're probably not trying to, but I will say it's definitely possible to make decent money on Poshmark, but then again, it's also so relative. Like, what's decent money? Like, what's your qualifications for that? Everyone has different meaning to what decent money is. So if that is the case, just know that, I mean, it's definitely possible. In my opinion, it does take a lot of work, so I can't understand where people are coming from that. But as long as you're making sure that you are running your business in a way that's very business oriented, you're selling the right items, it's definitely possible. Next question is, I saw a lot of people commenting on liquidation. Is that what you do? And I'm gonna turn this off. Sorry, I forgot I turned that on because my phone overheated, but it always puts like too much background noise. Okay, I saw a lot of people commenting on liquidation. Is that what you do and how? And no, I've never done liquidation before. The biggest reason is I don't have an EIN, which you are required to do in order to buy most liquidation pallets. And I don't have really, I live in an apartment. And even with this office here, I don't necessarily have the space to receive a pallet. So that's been one of the big reasons why I've never done liquidation. There are a lot of other reasons as well, but a big part of that is due to that. I don't know anything about liquidation in terms of where you should buy this stuff, why you should get liquidation pallets. I've heard a couple before, but I know it's really hard to come across like the good stuff. Will I eventually ever do liquidation? I think it would be cool too, but then again, I don't know any information on it, so it would take a lot of work on my end to do that. I do know a lot of people and have a lot of close friends that have done liquidation before, but I never ask them where they get liquidation. It's just not something that you should ask people. Even your close friends, if they want to share that with you, then they can, but I've never brought it up to people because it's none of my business. If everyone was doing liquidation and finding the best liquidation stuff, then it wouldn't be the same for everyone. So that's why it's never really the best question to ask people, because they'll hopefully respectfully just tell you that they can't share that with you. So that's why it's best just to be understanding on your own, or just usually don't try to ask. But if you didn't know that, that's totally okay. Next question is, what are your strategies for prepping for a busy season, Q3 and Q4? So I'm just doing honestly the same thing I'm doing right now. I haven't really thought too much about Q3 and Q4. I have a lot of inventory obviously to sell if I need to have inventory for selling for Q3 and Q4. I know usually more Newa tags sells during that season, but if I could find more Newa tags, I would obviously try to source it whenever. So I haven't really done too much too differently, especially since right now I'm just trying not to put my life into my business. So I'm not trying to stress myself out too much. So right now, whatever happens, happens. I'm just doing the same thing as I normally have done. And kind of similar question, what do you do with business prep for going vacation? If I know I'm going on a long vacation, I try to take as many photos as possible and measurements, hopefully if I can with the item, but ideally more photos, because if I have photos then I can list. So if I know I'm going on like a week-long vacation, let's say, which I've done a lot of this year, let's say my goal is just like 5 items a day, then all I only need is 35 items. So I'll try to just photograph at least 35 items to have in drafts and such to list out when I'm on vacation. And that's the best thing you can do. I wouldn't even worry about storing them away or anything like that, especially if you can't ship until you get back, because the main thing that you just need for listings is photos. Next question that I kind of mentioned prior, how do you avoid a death pile? And I rarely have a death pile, and the thing is, I don't know saying that, I probably kind of do, because you know, I have my process of items, I have them on my racks of, you know, they come in, I put them up and I process everything away. The only time things get in a death pile is if they have like stains or they got like returned and I forgot to put them back into the process. So I need a little bit of a better process to avoid that. So essentially the best way to avoid a death pile is to have a good, clear process of what things should go through and the next steps for them whenever they're received in certain parts of your business, and then you'll never really have a death pile, more just like I like to call an in-process pile. And the last question here, I guess this wasn't too long, was, do you work more on your phone or computer for listing? And honestly, it goes back and forth, since I have been kind of updating my tiles to more of whatever the keywords are. Like I mentioned with the Sonia at the Grateful Posture had mentioned, I kind of use both. I'll list on my phone, but then use my computer to find those keywords. It also depends where I'm at. If I'm out, I'll use my phone. Because I'm not doing my listings myself, I don't find I need the computer. If you are listing them from scratch, I find the computer is a lot easier to type on. on, but overall I would say it's probably about like 60% my phone, 40% my computer. So that is all the questions I have. Thank you for everyone who submitted those questions on there. If you have any other ones that you really quickly want to ask me, you can go ahead and put them below in the comments, or you can send me a DM on Instagram at ReCloth Collection. I really hope this video helped you out in some way or another. If it did, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. As long as I am healthy and not on vacation, I put out videos every single Wednesday. Next video should be a what sold video. If you like those type of videos, be sure to turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on that. Otherwise, I will see you next week. Bye.